Hello, friends. Welcome to another podcast session. In our session today, I would like to talk about celebration. Now, this one comes in from, it's a continuation of my last podcast session, the previous one, in which I had shared with you how we could use some very simple steps that can help us establish or build strong habits. And this was taken up from the model of BJ Fogg, the author of Tiny Habits. Now, this session, particularly, I would like to talk about celebration because I just realized that some of my clients whom I'm working with, and specific to the habit building, there are some of them who came back to me, and when I inquired, why is that they have been still struggling to build that habit? And one of the recent findings was in the habit model, which Fogg has taught us, when we write after I, that's the anchor moment, and I will, you put that tiny habit. It actually ends with a third step, which is celebration, meaning that when you are trying to establish a habit, you would not just create a prompt, anchor it into your everyday routine work, make it tiny so that you could practice it every single day, but toward the end of it, you would celebrate it. So in this podcast, a description comment box, I have also shared a picture of what I'm actually trying to explain you here, which is the final step, the third step in building a habit. And it calls for a celebration. Now, when I inquire with my clients, I realize that even though a lot of them are trying to work on building their habits and have been using this model, this method of first planning it, writing it, putting it into their daily routine, but the celebration part, either some of them didn't understood it properly, and for some of them they thought it cannot be very simple, and then it could be something grand that they need to do, or the moment they hear the term celebration, the hardwired thoughts in our head is it has to be grand. So I corrected them. And I would also like to share a bit more of that in detail today as I'm speaking with you. Celebration, friends, the concept here in this model of Fogg is about rewiring your mind to a positive experience. Now, there's a science behind it. So, BJ Fogg, when he created this model of tiny habits, this is not based on any kind of theory or ism. It has evidence backed up by proper science. And celebration, the last piece in building your habit, is very closely linked to it. So no wonder my clients were struggling were those who actually were missing this piece into their habit building. So if you really want to establish a habit, friends, you need to ensure that you are following this piece equally as the other two. Now, coming back to the concept of celebration, it does not really have to be grand or a major thing. The very idea behind putting this third key step is to rewire our mind to a positive experience. And this is a crucial step that actually help us establish habits. There's a secret here. The secret is our habits are built on emotions. So if maybe you have never heard this concept before, but Fogg in his book Tiny Habits explain it really beautifully. So one of the examples I'll try to give you here is, one is from my own life and the other I am just taking it from the book itself. So let's first talk about a positive experience. Have you seen, these young children the toddlers who are just learning to walk. So if you see a toddler walking and struggling actually because you don't really get to walk immediately. As human species, we struggle and then we learn. But I'm sure no one has ever seen an example wherein the parents are discouraging the child or the toddler to walk. In any given example or any video you may have seen or experienced, it's the encouragement that's being shared by the caregiver or the parents or people around the toddler, which is in a way reinforcing a positive experience in the mind of a child. And that's how our habits are built or our beliefs are formed. Similarly, an example from my life I would like to share with you here. This is on a negative connotation. So while I'm sharing this, what I'm trying to explain you here is that when any experiences, be it positive or negative, when we do it on a repeated basis, they become a part of practice. And habits are built when we lay emphasis or are more focused on building a positive experience. So an example from my life would be my math scores. I was never good in mathematics. So even as a child, whenever I had that report day or the exam, the quarterlies, the half yearlies, or the annual one, I would dread that very moment because I knew I wouldn't be scoring as expected. And there is a whole long experience now I need to go through of getting reprimanded, and first by the teacher, then back at home, and then by the tuition teacher, etc., etc. So this stayed with me for a very long time. And similarly, any of your negative experiences, if you've ever had in your life, you would, if you just sit back and think, they are much more easy to recall than the positive ones. That's how the wiring in our mind works. So when we are building a habit and there is a deep emotion attached to it, specifically of a positive one, that really help us build that habit in a more successful way. And that is the reason why this third piece in the BJ Fogg model of tiny habit is so, so important. So anytime you are writing that after I, and you write what the habit you're planning to build or establish, I will, and then you write the next step, make sure you do not miss out on the third piece, which is the celebration piece. And here's where you could just simply celebrate it by giving a pat on your back, a smile, just saying yay in your head, or just say celebrate. It could be as simple as that. And what happens is that after every habit, when you attach the celebration part to your habit, it helps to create that code, that the positive code in your brain, in your neuro circuitry. And that's how it helps you build a habit for a long, long time and in a successful way. So friends, do not miss out on this third piece and celebrate in the most easiest way, in the most simplest way. And you can pick up anything. Don't worry, it doesn't really have to be glamorous, extravagant, or anything of that sort. And see to it that how, when you celebrate effectively, you tap into the reward circuitry of your brain and then be able to establish successful habits. Well, that's all for today. I hope you will practice this and also understood how rewarding yourself is equally as important as establishing your successful habits. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.